Emmanuel Macron. Fight? No, we are just sexy and French. Hello, I'm HG Tudor. The internet certainly got whipped into something of a frenzy just recently as a consequence of the video that emerged showing Brigitte Macron shoving her hands into the face of the President of France and her husband, Emmanuel Macron. This manhandling, as I explained in a separate video, was a clear threat to his need for control and also damaged his facade of a united front with regard to their marriage. It also simply didn't look very presidential as you're exiting a plane or about to exit a plane and your wife lays hands on you. One could imagine that President Macron was asked, Président Macron, êtes-vous ingrat, vous et votre femme? And he replied, mais non, c'est simplement parce que nous sommes sexy et français. For those of you who do not speak French, this was translated to President Macron, are you and your wife at war? And he replies, but no, it is simply because we are sexy and French. Yes, that appears to be the stance that's being adopted by Emmanuel Macron to negate the effects of this video. That he's simply brushing it off and then engages in some classic blame shifting that all narcissists, even greater such as he, would engage in. When the video circulated showing Brigitte Macron aggressively shoving the President of France's face just before they stepped off a plane in Vietnam, this caused all manner of questions to arise. Were they in the midst of some kind of domestic dispute? Does the French First Lady regularly manhandle her husband when she's seemingly unaware that cameras are rolling? Is their marriage perhaps in trouble? The French president dismissed all of those questions and concerns and basically stated this was merely part of their standard repartee, which he doesn't expect prudish individuals such as you and you to understand. On Monday, he said that he and his wife were simply bickering and rather joking around, saying that's something we often do. Well, how interesting. So they often bicker, and she often shoves her hands in his face. A French official called the interaction a moment when the president and his wife were relaxing one last time before the start of the trip by having a laugh. Really? I don't recall the times when I've had to put my fists in somebody's face, them laughing about it. And while she wasn't punching him, he certainly didn't seem to be having a laugh. He looked rather stunned when she did it, for a moment thinking, gosh, what's going on? And also, bugger, that's been seen by the public out there. Hello, I'll wave, nothing to see here. Apparently it was described as a moment of closeness. Well, it's certainly the case. It was close by virtue of her hands being very close to his face. Maybe in your unsophisticated circles, after all, you and me are just considered plebs by them, the peons, but they are individuals that regularly behave like this. If they weren't attending to some state business, who knows, maybe you'd have hitched up her skirt and given her a bit of the old in and out and then shared a cigarette afterwards with a few Gallic shrugs. Commenting on the reaction to the footage, Macron said, I'm surprised by it. It turns into some kind of global catastrophe where people are even coming up with theories to explain it. It's nonsense. Thus, he nullifies the threat to control by simply dismissing it, not regarding it as having any impact, that it is the mutterings of the chattering classes, the stirrings of the hoi polloi. He added that conspiracy theories about the footage were part of a disinformation campaign started by crazy people. Now, that's an interesting observation on his part. In one respect, this could simply be him dismissing genuine concerns about what has been seen by virtue of stating, oh, they're conspiracy theories, and therefore deflecting from it. Then again, we do know that there are some ridiculous theories that are put out there on the internet, and therefore he may well be talking the truth. But the fact is, he still isn't addressing what truly went on, just describing it as bickering and something that we often do. But the behaviour and the reaction certainly didn't accord with what you would think as something that they would regularly do. Him describing or referencing the conspiracy theories is part of his need to deflect. 3 weeks ago, you'll recall, there was also a video that featured Macron, German Chancellor Friedrich Merz, and British Prime Minister Keir Starmer, which showed a tissue on the table they were sitting around, which led to wild claims that it was a bag of cocaine, which was preposterous because you could simply see that it wasn't. In response, Macron's office said, "When European unity becomes inconvenient, disinformation goes so far as to make a simple tissue look like drugs. This fake news is being spread by France's enemies, both abroad and at home. We must remain vigilant against manipulation." Interestingly, whilst that clearly was a tissue, and there may well have been disinformation being spread, Macron seizes on this and extends that suggested disinformation to what's been stated about what happened between him and his wife. But there is a substantial difference. When you watch the video involving the tissue, you can see that it's a tissue. You can see that it's not cocaine. But when you watch the video involving Brigitte and Emmanuel Macron, this isn't something else. You can see that she shoves him in the face. You can see that he's startled by that reaction. You can also see that he's somewhat surprised as he quickly realises that this has been witnessed by people on the outside, although he does recover his composure extremely quickly, which is what you would expect with a grater. The fact is that he is utilising a threat to control in terms of what his wife did and the subsequent coverage thereafter as a means to nullify it by suggesting, we're just sexy, we're just French, we bicker, this is playfulness. In essence, this is almost like a kind of foreplay between us. If you lot weren't around, I'd have bent her over and given her a good seeing to. However, you lot banging on about it, you're falling prey to disinformation. This is coming from enemies within France and without France. Pay it no heed. Whether it demonstrates their marriage is in trouble or not is ultimately nobody's business. Whether it's something that happens regularly, again, that's a matter between the two of them. However, it is necessary for him to spin it in a particular way to nullify the threat to control that's posed by the incident and, moreover, its coverage. And he has simply done so in a dismissive manner that would be commensurate with his status as a grater, to suggest it's nothing to see. We do this all of the time. It's just us being sexy and French, and you lot getting all worked up about it. Well, in essence, you're idiots. Although he doesn't say as such, he infers it, and then goes on to suggest you're being taken in by disinformation campaigns. Stop it. Don't accord with what the enemy wants you to think. And thus, that is how he brushes it away and asserts control once again. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.